Dzhokhar Tsarnaev has been found guilty on all 30 counts that he was charged with. We are joined here on the set by Randy Zellin, who is a former prosecutor and attorney, and as well as our CBS legal analyst, Rikki Klieman, who's joining us on the phone. We also have Paula, Reid in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of people here talking to us about this very complicated counts that have been delivered guilty for Dzhokhar Tsarnaev.
Imagine if they were to put this young man on the stand. And this is so counterintuitive. My name is Randy Zellin. I am a jihadist. I did this. I want to die. I want you to make me a martyr. What does the jury do? That could be the most brilliantly weird thing to be done, because there's going to be one jury that's going to be like, there is no way in God's green earth, my friend, I'm granting you that wish.
And that was Rikki Klieman's point. They want to save him from himself.
You will, but exactly. And then what happens is they don't grant his wish.
Right.
And he ends up having his life spared through the most bizarre of reasons. By simply asking for it, the jury's going to be like, I ain't giving it to you.
Paula, let me go to you for a second. One of the things that we have communicated about is the fact that you pointed out rightfully that Attorney General Eric Holder is not in support of the death penalty. How much of that does that play a role at all in cases like this? Having a United States Attorney General so vocal about the death penalty?
Well, he's clearly the top law enforcement officer in the United States, but the law of the land is that the death penalty is allowed at the federal level. He was the one who signed off on it for this case specifically. He announced that he would not oppose it for this case. Again, this was the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. And on the Department of Justice beat, about every single week, we see other young, aspiring jihadists like Dzhokhar Tsarnaev and his brother. And so it seems that perhaps the Department of Justice wants to send a message to these individuals. You know, even if Eric Holder may be opposed to the death penalty, it is the law of the land. And when you conduct acts of terror on U.S. soil, they will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
We do have a statement from Superintendent and Colonel, Massachusetts State Police, Timothy Albin. He says, on the occasion of today's guilty verdict in U.S. District Court, the collective thoughts of the entire Massachusetts State Police are with the victims, survivors, and families of those maimed by these cowardly acts of terrorism. In today's verdict, we hope to turn another page in the recovery and healing of our community. Once again, the jury hearing the Boston Marathon bombing trial reached a verdict on the guilt of defendant Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, charged with killing 3 people and injuring 264 in the 2013 attack. According to federal prosecutors, he has been found guilty of all 30 counts. And we now go into the second, more contentious phase of the trial, in which it will be determined whether or not he is granted the death penalty.
Yeah, Randy, I'm curious. I'm very fascinated by what the jury is thinking and what his lawyers are thinking. And so we talked about what if he gets up there and he says, you know, kill me now, I'll be a martyr. But what if he gets up there and he says, just like my lawyers told you, my big brother told me what to do. I've listened to him. He was God to me. Everything he said, I followed. I knew it was wrong, but he's my family. He's my blood. You would understand that if you have a big brother, if you have a family member who tells you to carry out something, even if you know in your mind it's wrong. Does that sway the jury?
It depends. It depends on how he delivers it. It depends on whether or not the jury believes that it's genuine or it's scripted, whether it's coming from his heart, whether he truly doesn't want to die, whether he truly regrets what he did and accepts responsibility, but looks the jurors in the eyes and says, please, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. So with that in mind, it only takes one. And if you just get to one, then he spends the rest of his life behind bars without the possibility of ever getting out.
So setting the emotional stage in that courtroom could really be the tipping point.
Well, certainly that is what the government is banking upon. The emotion, the graphic detail, the videos, the people coming in. Sympathy has no place during the guilt phase, and that is what the judge instructs the jury. It has everything to do in the penalty phase. On both sides of the aisle, the government goes in with the aggravating factor of the depraved indifference to human life, the black heart, the destruction. Whereas the defense is going to come in with, he's a kid. He was under the spell of his brother, under the influence of his brother. This is not someone that you could look in the eye, look at yourself in the mirror and say, he would have done this if his brother were not around. You get back to, if not him, then who? Well, imagine if the brother didn't exist. Would he have done this on his own? And I think that is something that the jury is going to have to wrestle with.
So all it takes is one. We're still with Rikki Klieman on the phone. All it takes is one juror to say no to the death penalty. And the question is, how difficult is this going to be as we move forward? I mean, how does an attorney get all of the jurors to agree? And not only that, it's also, I think, a good question is, do the family members who have been in that courtroom day in and day out, are they, I mean, I'm not even sure if they want to see him put to death for the deaths of their loved ones. Rikki, I don't know how they would feel about the death penalty, although clearly that's being sought here.
Well, certainly some may want the death penalty, some may not. And that's the job of the lawyers on both sides, particularly, I would think, the job of the defense lawyer to ever try to find a victim's family member in the city of Boston who would be willing to testify in the penalty phase that they did not want him put to death. That would be a stunning moment in court. What you have here is an interesting phenomenon. You know, jurors are what we call strangers, secondary group. They're not people who are related. They're not people who knew one another. But jurors throughout the history of this country have been able to come to consensus on issues of guilt and, in many states, on issues of life or death. In this case, because of the heinous nature of this crime, and because it affected the entire city of Boston, Boston itself feels victimized by this crime. This is a difficult situation, even with lawyers as skilled not only as Judy Clark, but also of the other people who are with her, who do these death cases, who know how to do them, that it is still difficult because the strangers, this secondary group of people in a jury room becomes a primary group of people, becomes people who seem like a family, that they live together, that they talk together. They become very primary. We know that from studies of jury deliberations. It is hard for one person to say, I won't vote with you.
Paula, Reid, question here. The death sentence, if that is applied, if they do decide to put this man to death, we know that clearly right now there are many worries in the United States about aspirational jihadis, homegrown terrorists. 60 Minutes has reported on it. CBS News has done reports on that. Do you think that that would send a message that would act as a deterrent to possible jihadis here in the United States? Not as if we're asking the jurors to send a message, but would it deliver one nonetheless?
I'm not sure these individuals who aspire to jihad can be deterred. Also, being a martyr, that plays a big role in this current wave of aspirational jihadis that we see. And these individuals that the Department of Justice has arrested, just 7 of them over the past few days, who want to conduct attacks both here in the United States and abroad, many of them are willing to die in the course of their attacks. So I'm not sure that a death penalty sentence in this case would be able to deter any of them. And that's just one piece of the puzzle of how difficult it is to track and to deter lone wolves who want to conduct jihad here or travel abroad to do so.